Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome. It's Overreaction Monday here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum, and that is Anwar Richardson. And this show is brought to you by Rogue Shop. Use that promo code Orange Bloods. Go to rogueshop.com and go shopping. Texas is home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. They've got so many products that can make your life just a little bit better. And that's what we're all in it for, right? To have as good a life as possible and to make all of the fine margins just a little bit better wherever we can. And as you hit the like button, that's one of those fine margins. Subscribe to the channel, all those things. We do appreciate it. Anwar, the Longhorns this weekend, improving fine margins, taking no for an answer, an all at all costs attitude. We've talked about all in, and it kind of become weirdly a little bit of a punchline. Now, I don't know how these things start, but it's like, Texas is all in. And you're like, what are you doing? What's happening here? What's the pushback? But then yesterday, you get Cam Coleman, you steal Hollywood Smothers away from Alabama. Suddenly, the totality of everything that they've done, although there's still some needs to address. The offensive line certainly front and center. But it does feel like, for me, the entire vibe and mood around the Texas football program, and specifically what now the expectations will be for 2026. I think there was a vibe change in the last 24 hours, and I think it's an exciting one. I think Texas football fans are pumped.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And and like you said, not only those guys, but they also get they get, Rasheem Biles as well. They get Justin Cryer as well. And so, what we started off last week saying to ourselves, all right, let's see what happens, right? And then we thought the floodgates were going to open as soon as the transfer portal opened. And it went a lot slower from the onset than we thought. They missed out on some guys. And then we kind of start doing that thing almost similar to what it looked like for the past few years prior to this year catching high school recruiting, where Texas might miss out on a guy. And then it's like, oh, man, didn't get Micah Hudson. What the hell is going on over there? Didn't get to Corian Moore. What the hell is going on over there? But instead of Texas rebounding and finishing strong in high school recruiting and then getting a top 3 class, it's actually worked differently, but towards transfer portal catch. It actually was like, hey, start off slow, and now you have the top transfer portal class or top 3, depending on what you're looking at. And now all of a sudden things look different. Now all of a sudden, catch, you just look at it and say, all right, give me 1 or 2 more pieces on the offensive line, and we'll be good to go. You approach it and feel so much more better and differently than you did even a week ago, even probably going into the weekend. And by the way, everyone's asking, I'm okay. I am not hungover. I feel good. I didn't need to take anything today. I'm here. I'm strong. I'm at 100%.
You did not message me before 7 a.m. this morning, though.
Yeah, I did not.
Because for transparency, Anwar and I are a couple of old guys that get up early. So
yeah,
there's no one else on the Orange Blood staff that I know I can ping literally before the crack of dawn. And I know there's a good chance that either A, he'll already be awake, or B, he won't be mad because he'll know probably. So I was this morning, I was like, all right, I'll wait. Because on Mondays, because we do the show, he'll sometimes ping me between like 6:30 and 7. And
nah, I didn't do that. I was in bed. I was in bed. I didn't get out of. I woke up at 7, and then I didn't probably really start operating until like 7:15.
That is completely fair. I think that's more than exceeds expectations. I have to be honest. I wondered if you might just take a sick day today, and like I'd have been okay. I would have held it down. I think we all would have understood, wink, wink, like what that would have put about. Look at you. You got a smile. You're good. Everybody.
I'm good.
Yeah, everybody needs to just
look dehydrated.
Anwar's first rodeo, by the way. You don't get a show called The Drunk Uncle. and then on a random Sunday night succumb to the pressures of a one-time experience. Trust me. Unk's been there. Tracy for $10. Thank you, Tracy. if we're assessing the Texas portal class as if we're evaluating an NFL draft class, what is your current Texas portal grade? Tracy, if Anwar doesn't mind, I'm going to step in here and just say this feels a little bit like asking to grade the draft after the first 2 days and there's still day 3. Texas has it. It's hard to grade this portal class until we know what the offensive line thing is going to completely look like. It is and was and remains the biggest need they had coming into this transfer portal window. They knew it. Everybody knows it. Don't tell us about the labor. Just show us the baby. Now, compartmentalize the offensive line thing and set it aside for a second. Everything else for me is an A+. I mean, you can nitpick, but they got the best player in the portal by a mile. There's no matter of fact. Here's my big overreaction Monday take. I think Cam Coleman's the most talented receiver to ever play at Texas. Ever.
I like that.
I'm not saying he's the best. I'm not saying he will be the best. I watched like one of those N1 mixtapes of him from his career highlights at Auburn this morning. Not that it was the first time I'd seen him even.
Of course. Yeah, sure.
But it just dawned on me. I was like, I've seen every guy that's come through here in the last 30 plus years. I ain't ever seen that dude before. And you know what it translates to the field, we shall see. But I was even thinking about it today. I was like, if that guy comes in 1 year, just blows up, just has arguably the greatest wide receiver season in the history of Texas football, and they win a national championship, I was thinking to myself, where would you put Cam Coleman on the Mount Rushmore or in the pecking order of all-time great wide receivers if he literally shows up, explodes, does the damn thing, walks out, because, Roy Williams played 4 years and Jordan Shipley played 6 years and those dudes combined for like 10 years. What happens if a guy just shows up and just murders it for a semester? I had to say, I think I would rank him really, really, really high, and that's not a conversation I've never in my head ever thought, what if a single player shows up and has such an incredible season? Where would I put him with the all-time greats? I think there's a real opportunity here, and I think that's who they got. I think if there's people who don't understand the significance, Anwar, of what Cam Coleman was, and when we start to answer Tracy's question, what kind of grade would you give it? I think Cam Coleman's a transformative player. I think that if you put him on Ohio State, if you put him on Georgia, if you put him on Alabama, he changes those teams. That's how good he is. It's a sin that guy's been at Auburn wasting away with terrible quarterback play. On the other hand, it has showcased just how amazing he is at turning crap into something great. He just doesn't get great and consistent very often. This is a guy that I think enters as one of the most talented players that the University of Texas has ever had at a certain position. To me, that's where we're starting from. And then it's okay. They got arguably 2 of the top 3 best running backs that are actually in the portal. They've got what they think is a starting tight end. They got what they think can be a starting defensive tackle who has experience as a starting defensive tackle in the SEC. They got arguably the best linebacker and maybe the best defensive player in the entire class in Rasheem Biles. And then in getting Bo Masco, they got a guy that literally in my mind was, I thought that's the guy they got to get. That's the best corner in this class that I've seen when I watched tape. I was like, okay, I see why that guy's all Big Ten. And I thought, but he's at Rutgers. I think I mess with that guy. And then they went and got him. And I was like, okay, I like it sometimes when you think something internally and then somebody else just goes and does the thing that you think is the thing. It makes you feel like they're smart, but it makes you feel vindicated as well. It makes you feel smart as well. I think it's A+ Anwar.
Yeah. I mean, look.
It's incomplete without the offensive line.
It is, but I'm gonna. Can I grade on a curve a little?
You do whatever you want to.
I'm gonna grade on a curve a little bit. For me, I'm going to give them some bonus points, a little bonus points for at least having Gooseby and Robertson back, right? I mean, just a little bit. I understand it's not transfer portal, right? But if Gooseby decides to leave, there's no offensive line.
You're giving them brownie points on their portal class grade because of a couple of retention efforts?
I said, listen, hey, when you go to school and they're like, hey, you might be math class and like, hey, if you watch this on TV today, like you can get an extra 5 points if like you write up a little review on that. And you're like, doesn't really have anything to do with it, but they gave you something abstract.
No, I'm down. I'm with you. Keep going.
So what I'm saying is now it's not as dire. They still need guys in the interior.
I think it's dire.
It's important. But
who are their start? They played a game tomorrow. Can you name their starting interior? Connor Robertson, center. I can't name a guard.
Yeah, listen, I'm almost done with my grade. So I have them at an A-.
Wow, okay.
I have them at an A-.
But you're including the offensive line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Just like a couple of little extra points, right? So they will get to my A+ range when I see some impactful offensive linemen. When I see some impactful offensive linemen, and I don't know if they're going to get there. I don't think there's 4 to 5 guys that are out there that we can say that guy. Now that person may go to the portal over the next couple of days. And if I'm Texas, I'm calling around and saying, does your guy want to come to Texas? If he does, we have something for him. But for me, it's an A- until you add to the offensive line.
That's so fair. Like my A+ was with the offensive line piece being compartmentalized and not even being taken into the equation. So I think you and I are roughly in the same spot in that they got to do the offensive line thing. I will just say this about the offensive line. At the end of the day, when we talk about like right now, because they got nobody, Cole Hudson sounds really good. But let's be clear about what Cole Hudson is as a college football player at his best, which was this year when he turned into a very serviceable offensive lineman, and Texas was better for having him on the field. He was serviceable. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't good, but he didn't get you beat. He's the kind of guy that is not going to get drafted in the NFL. He's almost certainly not going to play in the NFL when it's all said and done. But at the end of his career, he was like a 22-year-old guy who could hang. And sometimes in the offensive line, that's enough. Look at Ohio State in 2024. They'll tell you their offensive line was garbage. And it wasn't much better this year. And they'll say that's one of the reasons, was one of their undoings. But they were so spectacular everywhere else they got by. I think there are Cole Hudson. I say all of this to say I think Texas can find 4 or 5 Cole Hudsons. The quibble that people are going to have is they're going to say, well, that's not good enough because, Catch, you keep saying the bar is to beat Ohio State and Georgia, and those guys aren't good enough to beat Ohio State and Georgia, and that is completely fair. I think if you're going into next season with an offensive line that, say, is comparable to what you had this season, then the hope has to be what kind of it was a year ago, which is, well, Arch is going to be really good. And you know what? Arch was really good down the stretch, and guess what? The offensive line play looked better. You're going to need some running backs to make some guys miss some tackles in the backfield. Like that has to happen. And it didn't happen a year ago. And you're going to bet that with 2 more elusive running backs and Derek Cooper on the field, that the running game just gets better. And as a byproduct, the offensive line looks a little bit better. You're going to look at a guy like Cam Coleman, and you're going to say, that guy makes our passing game better. And you know what? That guy just being on the field on 4th and 1 from the 1 does change the way teams have to prepare for goal line situations. You can't, because I'll tell you what, the best play Texas will probably have at 4th and 1 on the 1 is if it's Cam Coleman by himself on an island against one dude.
Yeah.
Stop asking Cole Hudson to make the play. Let Cam Coleman make the play. Problem that Texas had this year is Matthew Golden wasn't here. He was Cam Coleman 2 years ago. I understand the concerns about the offensive line, but I think the first thing they've got to do Anwar is just make sure they don't go backwards. If they can improve, then by all means, and it will be a part of the grade. Like we won't, if they don't get the offensive line that they need. I mean, a lot of people I think looking at Kyle Flood and going, "What is up, dude? What's up? What's up?" Because it's not like Texas hasn't even gotten guys on campus. On top of that, guys are only at that position are turning down more money to play for Texas than to go elsewhere. Texas has been able, with every position but the offensive line, to kind of just take its wallet and go bam. Now let's make sure we're good, but we don't really need to worry about the money part. The money part's going to be good. Trust us. Do we like each other? And I'm convinced they knew more on the Cam Coleman thing, Anwar, than they've ever let on.
Oh, yeah.
All these other schools were recruiting other wide receivers, and Texas was like, "What the hell do you mean somebody's reporting that Trey Richardson's coming to Texas? Y'all need to get that out. That Trey Richardson ain't going nowhere near Austin."
They're like, we don't know who that guy is. I don't know who that guy is, but he ain't coming here. By the way, you know what I hate? How do people get to report that and then never get to follow up that the dude never came here?
Because there's so much other stuff going on that, like, you just move on. Plus, they got that from an agent. I'm not going to be mad. We would have got caught in the same thing if we had talked to Trey Richardson's agent and he was like, "Hey guys, a little bit of scoop. Like, he really wants to go to Texas. He's got a visit set up for Thursday. Yeah. If you guys want to put that out there, you can." We'd have done the same thing. We'd have been like, the agent told us. And then, that is, and I have no idea if that reporter that reported that, because I can't even remember who said it or reported it.
It's so many reports. I'm
like, I have no idea whether that guy held himself accountable or not, but those things happen. It's like, oh, he's not going. Well, at that point, you almost don't even have to explain yourself. It's kind of obvious what probably happened. But I'll be honest, there's like that Wyoming kid that came in to visit. And the first time I heard that, I was like, that didn't happen. That did not happen. They did not bring in some dude named Wes King from Wyoming as one of the very first offensive linemen to come visit. It just didn't happen. And Jason's getting interviews with the kid, and I'm like, that actually happened. So,
and then you tell yourself that didn't happen, and then several days later, there's a guy from Yale that they're talking to, and now you're like, oh shit, okay, well,
that guy's pretty good though. They want
he is good. Guy. He is good.
Counting on, I think, being able to somehow get that guy. It's weird. I was talking with somebody about this last night. These offensive linemen just aren't trying to get money whipped. They're the only position. These guys, maybe it's just comfort. There are those big old dudes who are like, "Oh, I have to lift weights on Thursdays. I really don't want to have to miss weight training, and I'm good. My girlfriend's here. Can you just pay me some more money and I'll stay?" It's amazing the amount of money, the sheer amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars that a couple of Michigan offensive linemen left on the table that I just not seen anywhere else. And I do think that is, Texas is almost pitching a perfect game if those two dudes show up. Maybe a no-hitter, right? Maybe missing on Isaac Brown and Jaden Baugh and having to go down to your option 3 or 4. Maybe that. I don't know. Options 3 and 4 are really good. But if they pulled off the two Michigan guys like they thought, look, I can't ever say that this source is never wrong, but I reached out to a source last week because I said, "Hey, who do you feel most confident in? Not who are you guys going to get, who you guys got committed." I wasn't asking for really like state information or anything. I was just curious. Who do you feel best about? Now, look, everybody, they've had guys that they've gotten commitments from that have gone their way that were not on this list. the person I was communicating with said the kicker and the punter, which both of those guys committed within like 5 minutes of me receiving that text. The only other thing that was in the message was the 2-0 lineman from Michigan. I was like, okay. They must, and I can see why they would have thought that those deals were done. Those guys went out of their way to enter their names into the portal. They came down to Austin. Texas blew them away on the visit, offered them way more money, and then both of them dudes went back home to Michigan and got guilt-tripped into the home team, or whatever you want to call it. Their emotions or heartstrings were pulled, and Texas lost those two guys. But if we're sitting here today and those two guys are in your starting offensive line like they thought they were going to be, the totality of everything else that's happened, you'd be like, there aren't enough pluses to put next to the A+. So I like the game plan. The game plan was really on point. There's a little bit of execution that they've missed on that they're still trying to figure out. But overall, it's been a bang-up job.
I mean, Michigan convinced Justin Haynes to come back, right? So the Justice Hayes, rather.
Did they?
Wait. Did he go into the portal?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. He did go into the portal. That's right. I thought it was between that and the NFL. But you're right. They did end up losing.
He's still hurt, though. Like, one of the things that's hurting Haynes is that I heard he's going to miss the spring at whatever school that he visits because of this injury that he has. And I was like, wait a minute. He wants $2+ million and you're getting damaged goods?
Yeah. I was thinking of Jordan Marshall. I take it back. Jordan Marshall.
Yes.
That's what I was saying. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I don't follow Michigan that closely, right?
No.
But look, we've seen guys decide that they're gonna come back. And look, I think if they got one of those offensive linemen, I think you can say, well, shoot, that's a hell of an upgrade from what you have now. So they don't get either. One of the things that someone pointed out to me over the weekend was, they said, we lost out on that, but it's not like we lost them to another program that was competing for us. It wasn't like they were in the portal, we were going head to head, and that program beat us. It was like they just wanted to stay home, And so while the loss hurts, they could almost conceptualize it like, all right, I get why this happened, but it wasn't like they were competing against Alabama. And Alabama it
wasn't like Texas Tech came in and just took their cornbread. I mean, the kids decide. In fact, there was a plugged-in insider on Orange Bloods last night who posted specifically about those two kids, and he was like, "Hey, man, those kids came in, great kids, Midwest values, didn't care about the money as much as everything else. And like at the end of the day, they prioritized other things." And he was like, tip of the cap. All you can do is respect that. Like, that is, what are you going to do when you're like, take my bag of money? And they're like, well, there are other things that matter as well as the money. What do you mean? Don't you see how, at some point, and I think I was actually kind of impressed that those guys on the Texas side had reacted with grace.
Yeah.
With the two, because those are still significant L's. It's impacted. They're still feeling the impact, right? They lose on the running backs last weekend, but then they end up with Raleigh Brown and Hollywood Smothers. And it's like, wow, that looks really, both those guys are going to play on Sundays. So both of those guys can make guys miss. Both of those guys can score from anywhere on the field. Both of those guys make the team better. You can talk me into that. Feels like a fantasy football trade where if I traded you Isaac Brown, but you gave me back those two guys, I would go, well, the best player is Isaac Brown, but those two guys together do a lot for it's two starters in my lineup, right? You can convince yourself in that case that getting 2 quarters or 4 quarters is maybe a little bit better than $1. I'm not sure, but it's real wealthy people problems when you just got commitments. You just took Hollywood Smothers away from Alabama. You just landed Raleigh Brown, who I think is the best running back other than a healthy Justice Haynes in the portal. And you're like, well, what about? And it's like, man, do you know how many every school in the country other than Texas would just be like greatest day of our lives Can you believe that's the greatest single running back day in the history or week in the history of the school? And only at a school like Texas would it be, because I have had a little bit of this where it's like, but wouldn't it have been better if we had gotten Isaac Brown? And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Maybe like accept the good, people. I watched a movie this weekend, and one of the real themes of the movie was accept the good in your life. And I was like, you know what? Such a simple message, but I thought about it all weekend long. Texas fans, instead of nitpicking and wondering, like, accept the good that happened and like rejoice. Because I think yesterday was one of the great dopamine hits in the history of Texas football on the internet, as far as I'm concerned. That Cam Coleman thing hit. And while I think Texas fans, I'd been asked earlier in the day, where did I think Cam Coleman was going to go? And I said, Texas. I didn't know who really the number 2 was. I always knew Texas was going to be in the final 2. Who else is in the final 2? I was never quite sure who that was. In retrospect, that tells a story. But, when that hits yesterday, Anwar, there was like an eruption because of kind of the out of the blue. It might have come later in the day, maybe today, maybe on Tuesday. When it hits, everybody goes crazy. But then the Hollywood Smothers things happen. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. You're giving me 2 desserts. And then here comes the Trevor Gooseby announcement. And then here comes the Connor Robertson announcement. And then, by God, Zena takes his name out of the portal, and he's coming back. And suddenly, the most important 2 guys probably in retention, because they definitely couldn't afford to lose Gooseby. He makes that announcement. Within hours, all of these things are happening. And I think a Texas football fan that there will be a day to look at that schedule and wonder, should we still cancel the Ohio State game? But in this 24-hour window that I think we're still in, I think Texas football fans, even without the offensive line being fixed, are thinking to themselves, bring it on. We'll take on anybody. Indiana, you want some? We'll play you next Monday. I think there's a lot more to all of this than just the rush of, hey, we have the number 1 portal class in the country. But I think Texas fans have every reason to feel good today. And I think that they should chill out a little bit. Like all of us guys in the like at some point they have executed a plan that's working. Cam Coleman is signed. Hollywood Smothers is signed. These guys are like official. It's okay now to look at this and go, you know what? Well done, Texas support staff. Well done, Brandon Harris. This could not have all just been Steve Sarkisian doing everything. Even if Sark is dictating a lot of the direction, to me, this was a big victory in the career for a 30-year-old guy in Brandon Harris that gets questioned a lot. What do you do here? And it is his first job. And the scrutiny can be, I think, unfair at times, but some of it also justified, right? If you're going to be the general manager at Texas, you're probably going to get some scrutiny. Trust me, ask the players. They get scrutiny. I talked to a person on yesterday who told me he thinks they lost one of the players because of online media scrutiny. And he goes like, I don't think it was that big of a deal. He goes, but the kid mentioned it in discussions that he couldn't help but notice just a little bit of the toxicity that was kind of on social media, specifically, I think, on Twitter and Instagram, I guess. And, it's not like a trend. It's not like a bunch of guys, but, I think that today Texas fans should probably pat Brandon Harris on the back and say, I don't know how good he is, but I know this. Nobody else in college football just pulled off what they just pulled off. So how do you grade these things? I mean, ultimately, next season, the win-loss record will be the thing that defines this the most. But today, the best thing that we can go off on is how do we think they did? Other than the offensive line, which is a work in progress, it's hard to say much better anywhere else. You have to give some credit occasionally when good work is done. And I think, today's a day that, like, somebody should send Brandon Harris some Tiff's treats or something and be like, hey, coach, nice job this weekend. Or, everybody's called a coach in the building, but Brandon, BH, whatever he goes by, here's some chocolate chip cookies. Well done. It was that kind of weekend. And I think everybody today probably, there are enough flowers Anwar for me to give Sarkisian credit for this, to give position coaches credit for this, to give the general manager credit for this. It's not like an immaculate set of commitments occurred and nobody worked hard to make it happen. So I think well done, the entire Texas football program reacting strongly to missing the playoffs. And if you're a Texas football fan, that's exactly what you wanted to see. How would they respond? Well, they're angry and they don't plan on it happening next year. It's about the most you can ask for.
Because we got super chats that are piling up. So
yeah, I see we have 4 of them. So by all means.
So why don't we go knock some of these out?
You just start putting them up. One of them, right. The first one's directly to you.
Well, there's a couple.
Okay.
There's how close was the drunk uncle to telling more ish to Bonnie while on that brown liquor? Nah, not that close. She's tweeted at me over the last few years. I've ignored it. I thought her timing was wrong on that, and I try to respectfully say it. And the thing, what's disappointing about it, as relates to that, is that I think Texas fans would really like to root for Brennan Thompson. I don't think there's any animosity there, but the more hostility she creates, the more it makes it tougher. But I'll never look. You talk about guys watching stuff on social media. I know whatever I post on social media is going to get screenshotted, posted on Orange Blood. So I'm very careful about the things that I say. So I probably wasn't. Now look, I have some shit in my head that I wanted to say. And I have some stuff today that I really would like to say, but I might say it off air. But no, I'm not gonna go after her. But
I thought you handled that perfectly. I thought that was like perfect execution of the way. And if I'd asked you in advance, hey, this is going to happen, how would you, in a best case world, considering you were coming off the air and the long day and the long weekend? I thought.
And a few drinks too, by the way. I thought I did really well.
I thought that was A++ from you, FYI, as someone who noticed. I was like, oh, Anwar handled that better than he would have if he was sober.
Ironic. Maybe that's the key.
I don't know, but I thought it was chef's kiss perfect, and in terms of tone and approach and everything. Tracy throws in another 5. Thank you, Tracy. We've known Sark for having wide receiver rooms that can take the top off the defense. What are your thoughts on the wide receiver room being able to take the top off the defense?
I mean, Cam Coleman adds a different dimension, I think, as relates to that now, because you didn't have that catch. You didn't have 2 guys, and even not forget Parker, but even Ryan Wingo wasn't I take the top off the defense kind of guy. What Sark realized later in the season was that the screenplay to Wingo was the bread and butter for him, and that's what worked well. He didn't have like a burner at that point. But now, if you're telling me you've got Wingo on one side, you got Cam who can definitely do it. You put Emmett Mosley now probably in the slot position catch. I think now all of a sudden it looks a little bit different from an attack standpoint.
Yeah, look, they still don't have the speed that they would want. That hasn't been addressed, and I mean. Cam Coleman's a different kind of freaky. Calvin Johnson was fast, but it was more to it than his speed. And I think that's what you'll see with Cam Coleman. He's going to be a vertical threat. They will throw the ball down the field to him. He is Parker Livingston times 100. They have similar games in a lot of ways. If you look at Cam Coleman, most of what he does is outside the hash mark. He's not a guy that works the middle of the field a ton. At least he hasn't been at Auburn. And look, maybe their offenses was limited, and maybe he comes to Texas and is used in a bunch of different ways. I think that teams will worry about – he will be the focus of a lot of game plans. He's just – I'm telling you, if you really haven't watched Cam Coleman, just go watch his video. He's freaky. He is freaky. People are watching that video and they're coming away with it and are going, George Pickens starter kit. And it's like, yeah, I can kind of see that. He's got some of just the ways George Pickens will make a play and you go, geez, that's freaky looking. Dudes, even in the NFL, don't do that all the time. He's got some of that in him. And
is Raleigh really the guy who takes the top off the defense?
No. Again, they don't have, I don't think they have a take the top off the defense kind of a guy. But I do think Cam Coleman will be successful down the field in a different kind of a way. Teams will be worried about Cam Coleman over the top, different than they would if it almost be the same but different. He will attract double teams. He will attack safety help. He will attack all of the things that you typically designate for speed. Instead of it being speed, though, it'll just be that's the Cam Coleman tax. Because if you don't do that, you leave yourself in a situation where your guy's on an island with a freak. He's not going to play many dudes next year ever in any game that he plays in that can line up with him and just beat him one-on-one as a defensive back. He's better. He would be a first-round draft pick, slam dunk right now. He just finished his sophomore season and he can't go pro. It is not a matter of his quality. It's a matter of no one has tested the legal boundaries of the agreement that the players union has that allows the NFL to hold guys out of the draft until after their third year in college. Because if he could go, he would just go. Probably went a year ago. And
people tried. Mike Williams tried,
yeah,
and then Maurice Claret, they tried.
It's been a while.
They just had to sit their ass out for a year.
Well, now dudes get paid a lot of money to come back to college, so there are worse things than being Cam Coleman clutching his pearls, having to play between $3 and $4 million this year.
You want to knock out the rest of these super?
Yeah. I would just say I like the wide receivers. I think Texas. The combination of Coleman and Wingo, who, by the way, finishes the year as a second-team All-SEC player, probably gives them the best 1-2 punch of almost any team in the country. I won't make a real declarative statement without thinking about, well, who is Ohio State going to have with Jeremiah Smith and that kind of thing. But they're in that discussion. And I think the position as a whole, just by adding they had a bunch of Bs. They didn't have any As. Now they got an A+. And now your Bs look better as Bs because the A+ can allow them to be Bs without expecting them to be As. They might even have a second A. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Texas fans rejoice. There's reasons to feel good about the wide receiver room. Brady says, I believe the addition of Cam Coleman benefits Emmett Mosley the most. Thoughts?
I mean, yeah, if you're bouncing him into the slot position, then he's your DeAndre Moore replacement, right? And so – yes, because in an ideal world, right, Catch, you've got those guys operating on the islands and you got Emmett Mosley kind of working underneath. So I definitely think it benefits him. And I think from a draft perspective, being able to say you play inside and outside, I think that helps him as well.
Brady, I think you're freebasing this morning. It does not help Emmett Mosley more than it helps Arch Manning or Steve Sarkisian. Like, trust me. And those two dudes need the help more than Emmett Mosley does. I think Emmett Mosley's best on the outside. I think this move benefits the Texas offense in moving Mosley into the slot potentially more than it benefits Mosley. I think Mosley is optimal on the outside. But I think the best three receivers that Texas has have Mosley in it. And the arrival of Cam Coleman plus Ryan Wingo, outside guys, potentially blocks the pathway of Mosley, because he's not as good as those two guys right now, or at least as dynamic. I think there are areas of his game that are probably maybe even better than both guys in terms of route running, catching the ball. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Cam Coleman to judge him on all areas. I think Emmett Mosley probably plays in the slot, has a really good season. But I think let me put it to you like this. If Ryan Wingo got hurt for 4 games with a hangnail, and I think if Emmett Mosley moved to the outside, we would see the best of Emmett Mosley on the outside. I think he'll still be very good in the slot, but I think if it were me, I would. And look, I'm not having to write my names on checks, but I would still want a slot receiver if possible to upgrade DeAndre Moore and then Emmett Mosley if he would stay, because maybe at that point he leaves in the portal, and you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You can only have so many good guys at one position before everybody kind of does what they did in the Texas running back room and looks around and goes, what are they going to do in the portal? Deuces, I'm out. And we saw that with Christian Clark last night. The moment that the Hollywood Smothers stuff gets reported and he's signed, within an hour, Christian Clark is reportedly to have made the decision to enter the portal, which is he was expected to, and I guess he's made it. I don't know. It feels like that thing's been reported on by Anwar for about 10 days, and everybody keeps reporting the same thing. But because it's gone on for so long, we forgot that it got reported 10 days ago. But yeah, it looks Christian Clark. Anwar, we got to call in a favor and ask someone to check the portal for us and find out. Is Christian Clark finally in the portal? I would expect Anwar before we get these other super.
Oh, he's in the portal. He's in the portal. It was posted on the 11th.
Christian Clark?
Yes.
Oh, well, that was yesterday. Okay.
Yes.
I don't think I ever saw that anybody actually ever said his name was seen in the portal. But so many things got said yesterday. I could be like 100 people could have said it. Where you been? 6303. Great show last night. Anwar, the players you mentioned, did they get their asking price in the portal?
Man, I talked for 2 hours. I don't know which players I mentioned.
You got to be talking about the outgoing players, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate all you guys watching. Just an impromptu thing. Tex Blonde has kind of prompted it, and I just said, the hell with it. Let's do it. You guys have been asking for a long time. And thank you, because y'all dropped $1,000 in super chats last night.
Anwar, one stack last night.
One stack. I was like, oh, baby, we going out to eat.
You're two behind Andre. It's one closer than you were beforehand.
Yeah, we got vacation money. Hell, with all that. Did they get their asking price in the portal? If we're talking about some of the outgoing guys, they got more than that. I think they were going to get in Texas for sure. Because Texas said no, and it's hard to say no. It's one of the things I said last night, Catch. It's, Brandon Harris gets kind of labeled the bad guy, but someone has to be the one that says no, right? It just is what it is. And he says no. I think some of those guys, I don't think everybody has received it. But they were wanting, but the majority of those guys, yeah, teams are willing to overpay at this moment. And a lot of those teams were willing to overpay for it. So some of those guys, I feel like for the most part, Catch, they did get what they wanted. But I think Texas was okay with saying, you guys can go. If you can get it, more power to you. It's just not going to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, look, can't get mad if somebody values something you think is worth $5 and they think it's worth $20. You just can't. And consequently, if you're the one spending $20 for something that somebody else is $5 and they can't spend more and their feelings are hurt, I mean, you shrug your shoulders and go, I get it. I understand why your feelings are hurt, but like, I got to look out for me. And I think the Texas coaches, there have been a number. This is the first year where they've had departures leave, and it really stings. They've had guys that, quite frankly, I think Steve Sarkisian loves. I think it would have pained him to see C.J. Baxter leave the program. And I think it will pain him if C.J. Baxter goes and has a lot of success somewhere else and he'll want it for him, but he'll be like, that should have been with me. That's my guy. But there is a performance level that must meet the payout if the payout's to be justified. And there were just too many guys this year that Texas valued, but not quite at the financial rates that the players felt like they needed to be valued at. And look, to those players' credit, like if they wanted to get the best deal and there were better deals elsewhere and Texas wasn't giving it to them and they could find it elsewhere, Trey Wisner as an example. Anwar said it. I think that the Texas attitude was like, dude, if you can go get it, I feel you. We're not mad. We want you to stay. I think there was a lot, and they were able to talk some guys off the ledge. We want you to stay. We don't think there's a better situation for you, but we can't be out here paying you $500,000 if you're not going to be on the field for us. Like that's just, and if you are going to be on the field and you're going to make a lot of money, you got to be good. Really good. Good's not even the bar. Cam Coleman's the bar. That's what we're trying to do. Are you the Cam Coleman of your position? No. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
By the way, Catch, well, this only because he tweeted it out and all because our team's thing is going crazy. Michael Bennett, he did tweet out that he is going to Oregon, the Yale
guy. That's
Yale
a big
guy.
loss for Texas. I mean, he was I think the kid from Wisconsin that, this interesting kid, what is the kid's name? I got so many damn names in my head. I've forgotten the Wisconsin offensive lineman's name. Joe Brunner. So that kid's transferring from Wisconsin. I think he's better than the kid that Texas had lined up from Michigan. But both of his parents went to Indiana. So Indiana's playing for a national championship. The school he probably grew up dreaming to play for is at its apex as a program. And he can go home in his final year in college, potentially play on the defending national champions and all of that and get paid a bunch of money. And here's Texas with a big old bag of money. And they're giving that kid, I think, the exact same proposition that the Michigan kids turned down, which is my heart is telling me to go to Indiana. But my brain and everybody else's brain is telling me don't leave 1 point whatever on the table. Don't have one of these conversations where afterwards it's like, how much money did you leave on the table?
Yeah.
Isn't that more money than you've ever made in your entire life by like times 10 playing football? Yeah. And you turned it down? Yeah. Why? Well, because I collected souvenir cups as a kid when I went to Indiana games with my parents. Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah. I get it, but it's a decision that I think a lot of people would find very difficult to turn down. Anwar loves working with me, I hope, but if anybody ever goes to him and says, Catch, I can make an extra $700,000 somewhere else, don't be mad, but like, see you in court, like whatever we got to do to figure this out, but I got to go. And like, it's understandable. I might be like, Anwar, we've got a contract and stuff, but deep down, I'd be like, man, that motherfucker got $700,000 more dollars. Oh. Like he's just clapping, and I think
that's all you can do.
So I think that's their number one target. There's not a real sense for can they pull that off, but the Yale kid, Mikey Bennett, was a guy that they did want, and I think they knew it was a scrap to get him. And I wonder if with that kid, they just couldn't flat out say, you're definitely going to start for us. And that kid coming from an Ivy League school with 1 year to play, essentially as a grad transfer, probably wants to go somewhere where they flat out tell him there's nobody else. The runway is clear. And Texas is probably telling him we're going to take like 4 guys from the portal and there's 2 open spots. We're going to pay you a lot of money maybe, but there's no guarantee that we're not guaranteeing anything. We're not going to stop bringing guys in. And I think the fit just didn't work out for the Bennett kid at Yale, but Texas did want him.
Yeah, I think that's a blow, and it's a blow because one of the things we mentioned too, Catch, is that this starts the dead period where you can still, from a transfer portal perspective, you can still talk to guys, but you can't have anybody on campus. The deadline for guys to put their name in is Friday. And so really what this puts Texas in from an offensive line perspective, it's scramble mode right now.
Yeah.
They are now in scramble desperation mode. They got to get whatever the hell they can get at this moment. Like, it is what it is.
I think they're going to – I would wager money that Texas ends up being the school that gets Delano Townsend, the offensive lineman for Ole Miss. He's their Cole Hudson. He started every game. 900-plus snaps that guy played this year. Played a lot of good teams. Wasn't excellent in any of them if you look at the PFF grades, but He started for a semifinal team in the national playoffs in the SEC, and that's better than what they've got right now. And so I wouldn't be shocked if he's a guy that they add, and then it's about getting a couple of others. But they've got 4 days to maybe talk a few guys into the portal if they can. I think, again, the good news is you can find that guy that I just mentioned is Cole Hudson. And I think the thing that you would hope with a guy like that is the Indiana philosophy to all of this is they suck when they're freshmen. They suck when they're sophomores. They suck sometimes when they're juniors. But when they get to be old-ass men, 22, 23, 24 years old, they kind of come correct. It's also the Christian Jones philosophy. That guy just kept hanging around, and the memories of what we remembered him as a sophomore when he was forced to start out of a position at left tackle that he shouldn't have been, they just needed him to be there. Eventually, he moves to a position that's better suited towards him. He gets stronger. He keeps getting older and developing. And by the end of it, Christian Jones was a guy that everybody would have been okay if he could have just hung around forever. He became okay enough. There just aren't any offensive line stars, and they're not going to come away with, I think, a group of guys on WAR that personnel-wise we can look at like we are the wide receiver position and going, did they get better? And you're like, yeah. Well, how do you know? Because they didn't have a guy that good before. They're going to get numbers, I think, taken care of, and I think they're going to have capable players, but they're not going to have signed, I think, guys that are better than DJ Campbell or necessarily better than Cole Hudson, and I think that'll be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people who felt like that's the one thing you have to get right. Fuck Cam Coleman. Fuck all these other things. I don't care about – there are some people that are just like, I don't care about anything else other than the offensive line, and they won't want to hear anything else. A+ my ass, right? They'll say that's what had to get done, and you guys didn't do it at the level that needed it to. It'll then put a lot of pressure on Kyle Flood because that position group, you could argue his ability to get the most out of them will define whether or not Texas can actually win a national championship. That all of the other pieces could be in place. It's whether or not he can take a group of guys that don't look like the Avengers and turn them into something that's close to the Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know.
It's tough. All right, you want to knock out the rest of these super chats? Let's get them. We got 3 more.
No more super chats, guys. We got to wipe these off and get out of here.
Unless you want to drop $1.99 like you guys are doing last night, and then.
In fact, hold on. Sorry, El Presidente, you went first, but Barb's 10 overspent by a penny. The most money goes to the top. Barb's $10 recovering from last night's Drunk Unk show. Onwards version of Tupac's "What's Your Phone Number," and then Catch with his cameo was money. Thanks, fellas, for the best show I've heard in a minute. Barb's, that was all Onwar. I didn't do anything. So I appreciate you throwing me in as an add-on, but that's all Onwar. So best show he's heard in a minute, the Onwar Richardson production. Give him
I gave dating advice, Catch.
Oh, I heard.
Yeah, it was all over the place. And then some behind the scenes stuff. It went everywhere.
What is our girl looking for in a match? Because she's getting all these dudes creeping into her DMs. Ugh. Has she just told us what she's looking for? What's her steez? What does she want?
I don't know. We've got it. We know what she doesn't want, and all these guys with their lame ass approaches. So we can start there. We can kind of work our way backwards.
I don't know. We need to have a front and back. So the front is tell us what you want, and the back is don't be a creeper. But there's a lot in between those two things.
Let's start with the back end. Let's start with don't be a creeper, and then we can get to what she wants. Because I would hate.
But we now have established she doesn't want creepers. Now she needs to tell us, like, I'm tired of these women settling, taking these mid-men. You know, I feel like the thing that Tex Blonde has going for her is that in our universe, she has a network. She could say, I want a 27-year-old University of Texas business grad with black hair and purple eyes, and he's got to be 6'4".
Yes.
We probably, if that dude exists, we could find that. Those people are out there. They're watching us. Somebody's like, box checked, box checked, box checked. That's me. But she's got to let us know. Because as it is, it does feel like she's just floating out in the universe. She's not telling everybody she's not completely interested in meeting a guy that I'm aware of. Because she kind of always complains that like some dude did her wrong and that's because dudes suck. And like, Tex Blonde, I wish I could be a life coach. I'd prepare you for the disappointment that all these men are going to provide you for the rest of your life. But like, I just feel like, you know what I feel like? This is what it feels like to be one of them old ladies in church who's like, we got to get her over to the church and introduce her to some good boys or some good girls. Mm-hmm. I think we can find some. Just saying. I'm just saying.
You know, she's also a person who's got a kid in college. So she ain't got time for no BS either.
No, exactly. Go watch Jerry Maguire. Very pertinent scene there, and then you'll know what rules to play by. El Presidente DFW. Catch, can you talk about the comment you made yesterday about the Texas BMD being committed and are tired of Cody Campbell flaunting everything he does for Tech? Or did I read that wrong? No, what I said was at the moment that Cam Coleman committed, I was having a conversation with somebody via text. And I hadn't known yet that Cam Coleman had committed. I was like 5 minutes behind because I was watching the NFL. I was engaged in a text conversation and I was writing my 10 thoughts column. So the moment it happened, ironically, I wasn't watching right the second that it happened. And I had made a comment that had kind of indicated that if you guys pull off this whole thing, then you guys can, all of you, it's kind of that whole, everybody gets to have a little bit of credit. Everybody did a great job. Everybody gets a pat on the back. You guys will have dragged your nuts across college football to a certain degree because you guys will be talked about. The thing that's going to be a byproduct of this El Presidente, and get ready for this. I saw tweets that were being made yesterday with the James Blanchards, the Tech GMs of the world, retweeting them. Texas is going to have the first $40 million roster. Texas is going to be talked about in the offseason as a team that spent a ton of money. They're going to be featured as the poster boy for aggression in the portal in a way that I just don't think Texas ever wanted to be. But I think what happened was Texas felt like we'll play by the rules. We'll play by the rules. They got new rules. We'll play by the rules. They're going to audit these deals. They say they're going to play by the rules. I think they've watched Texas Tech flaunt rules. And there ain't nobody playing by rules out here. We are giving dudes millions of dollars. If you want our millions, come to Texas Tech. Ain't nobody stopping us from doing a damn thing. And I think the Texas guys were like, really? Yeah. Every article that came out, I just think they looked around and went, there's no outrage. There's nobody questioning the checks and balances of this system. We're the only people that want checks and balances, apparently. And I think they went, okay, y'all motherfuckers don't want checks and balances, huh? Well, then fine. There ain't going to be no checks and balances in the portal this year. And Texas has not been beaten for anybody because somebody else offered more money than Texas was offering. Not one guy. Texas hasn't won every guy, but we have not heard the headline, Texas came in cheap and didn't. We've heard the opposite. We've heard, well, the offensive lineman at Michigan turned down $700,000. Going to make $900,000. I heard he had 1.6 on the table. The dude turned it down. What are you going to do? Well, you just move on to the next guy, but it does mean you miss on target number one. But yeah, man, I think they felt like, okay, well, this is the sport. If it's the sport, let's play by the rules of the sport. And I think Texas is going to be painted as a bad guy all season long. And I don't think anybody at Texas cares anymore, at least not this year. Maybe they'll care in the future, but they have talked themselves into, oh, you guys didn't have any issues talking about Texas Tech and how they did it. Don't be asking questions about how we did it. All our stuff got passed through Deloitte. And roll their eyes. But yeah, I think there's some good names. Those guys all know each other. And yeah, they want their football programs to be better than the other one. It's just that simple. Tucker, Wakeland, 68-10 for 5. What was the price tag for Coleman? I hadn't heard anything final on War.
I haven't heard anything as of this moment. I don't I don't necessarily think that that's going to be something that Texas people will want to to flaunt out there. Like I think Texas is willing to spend, catch. I just don't think they ever want people to know how much they are spending. And people are going to throw numbers out there. And unless an agent, it'd be like, Mulligata, he would have to be the person that said, or Mulligata, excuse me. He would have to be the person, oh Jesus. He would have to be the person that says it. I think it's going to be speculation, but I don't know if we'll know the exact number.
What kind of girlfriend stories does he want?
He said an ex-girlfriend story.
I know. So what kind of ex-girlfriend story? Rude, I'll give you one, but man, those can vary in content in a myriad of directions. Like, what do you want specifically? You just want me to, I got a million good stories. Some of them end up with me like getting my head crushed in, like emotionally. Some of them are just funny. I'll tell you one. It wasn't a girlfriend story. I had recently broke up with a girl, one of my first loves, right? This is like a high school love, but it was my first year in college, but the girl that I was dating was like a high school senior. She breaks up with me. I'm crestfallen about it, right? So my friend's like, we're taking you downtown. You got to meet somebody else. Cause I was in a little bit of like a 1 month funk. So they take me downstairs. As soon as I turn onto 6th Street, I bump into somebody. It's a really attractive girl. We start talking. We end up going into a club that you can go into when you're under 21. She eventually tells me that we bumped into each other because she was trying to pick my pocket. And if you think it gets worse, like it gets better from there, it doesn't. It ends with me thinking with the wrong brain. And I eventually was extorted out of $200. She claimed that she was pregnant and would have me murdered if I didn't send her money to Odessa. And then she showed up on my front step from Odessa a week later and like reinforced, give me my money or somebody will show up and kill you. And I just borrowed $200 from a friend's mom. Shout out to Ronnie Wooten's mom out there. She gave me $200. I paid it back pretty quickly, but like it's just like I talked about travel. You have to ask yourself, how much is your peace of mind worth? Well, I pay an extra $100 to get to a city 8 hours earlier. How much are those 8 hours worth? I discovered at 19, my peace of mind could be, if it could be bought for $200, I would pay it. And I did. That's just that one popped into my head.
Wow.
That's not even the craziest part of the story involving that one particular girl. There's like, I guess when it starts with pickpocket and ends with extortion / death threat, the middle part, there's a lot.
At the end of the day, did you, have relations?
Well, yeah, that's why it kept getting worse. Cause once you get a little bit of crazy, Anwar.
Hey, they when you get crazy, that is toxic, and yeah.
I woke up the next morning in this hotel room that first Saturday night, and there were two gay black guys in the room naked that weren't there when I went to sleep.
Oh, what happened, titty party?
Well, her friends showed up. She had roommates in the room. I just didn't know who they were at the time. And they were like, oh man, we showed up at the wrong time. We would like to see you, naked white boy. And I was like, I got to go to the Dish. There's a baseball series that I got to work at the Texas SID office, but y'all have a great life. And then, yeah, man, it didn't end quite like that. It's not how it ended. I wished it had ended with the sexual overtures of a couple of gay men. Like, nothing wrong with that. It didn't. That was actually the highlight. It got much worse, as explained with the extortion note. I had that letter somewhere just in case one day I ever actually got murdered. And people were like, because I wasn't always hated by everybody, Anwar. Once upon a time, it would have been like, who would have murdered this guy? And nobody would have had an answer. Now it would be like, well, we got to start with all of the Aggies and all of the Sooners and all of the people that hate him. But once upon a time, I thought, man, if I end up dead on these streets, the letter from this girl, Misty, has to be able to be found.
Okay, so anyway, so you asked the question. I will give you an answer. Text Blonde says she's looking for effort, honesty, and being real.
Oh, good luck with that, Text Blonde 05. I don't even know which one's the hardest to find. I gotta be honest, being real. There are more busters out here who, in the name of being real, wild out in all kinds of capacities. So I feel like you can find someone who's real, a real asshole more than likely, but they'll be real. I don't see none of these young dudes putting out effort into anything.
Man, they don't know how to pick up a phone.
You were raised, you come up, you're living in an era now where men just ain't trying to put in effort. So good luck with that. And honesty, most of these dudes can't be honest with themselves. How are they going to be honest with you? I'm not trying to damper the parade, Text Blonde. I'm letting you know, don't give up on those aspirations, but don't believe in fairy tales either.
Well, that's why she's single.
I'd rather be single and not with some of these dudes.
Yeah. So that's what she wants. And look, you admit that shit's hard to find. And that's why she's not settling. And you know what?
Doing? She does get to bounce around. The one good thing for her is that while she may not like it, she's constantly reinforced that her worst case example, this isn't a bad thing. Her worst case example is that she's got somebody's busters salivating over her.
Yeah.
I have been in a cold stretch where it's not like, well, hell, go slum it for a night. You know, it is not always that easy. So at worst, if she ever was like, God damn it, fuck it. She's got some goddamn fuckets in her DMs. She just picked the least like insulting and like, just the nicest of the worst. And then you can make a mistake. But like, it's nice. It's not the worst problem to have fans, is all I'm saying.
She definitely has fans, but yes.
I think if I got divorced, I could get laid because from being me, but I would probably meet like some. I always remember this movie called Lone Star, and the police go to interview this one woman one time, and she's a recruiting fan in this movie. It's from the 90s. And she's talking about this linebacker who's 6'2", 240, runs a 4.4, going to Texas A&M while the cops are trying to interrogate her. And I was like, that is my future. Jesus Christ, man. One day I'm going to be all by myself, and the only women that are going to have any interest in me at all are going to be women that want to talk high school football recruiting. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like, I'll have fangirls.
Yeah.
But they're going to be like, now tell me about Cam Coleman.
I've been single off and on. Anytime my single stuff, can I tell you, if I matched with someone who was like a Texas fan or something like that, I instantly would not date them. Because I tried to do that one time, and it would be like a Friday night. She's coming over, and she's like, so tell me about Sam. I'm like, I don't want to talk about Sam Ellinger right now. That is the last thing I want to talk about is Sam, right? It's like, oh, so you think Colin Johnson's going to have a good game? I'm like, I'm trying to have a good game right now. I'm trying to score. I'm trying to win. So I've always, if someone's really into UT, like it works for some, but when it's like anything, I always try to tell people that at some point, this is your job, right? And whatever you do in your life at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, you don't want to discuss it. You just don't, whether you're an accountant, whether you work in customer service, whatever it is. And so for like us, people think like, oh snap, like you want to talk about sports. It's like, actually, I would like to have a normal conversation that doesn't revolve around sports. Can we talk about that? So it's one of the reasons I'm like you. Sometimes I'm reclusive because I ain't trying to go on a Friday night and talk about this shit. The last thing I want to talk about. The last thing.
I used to have friends back in the day that would ask, I would literally meet up with them and that would just go in with the UT football stuff. And I would be like, I will literally comp you a subscription to Orange Bloods if you promise to me that you will not ask me recruiting questions. Although Sean Adams and I met in the stands at DKR because he followed me on recruiting and I heard him reference my name in the stands. And I was like, oh, who do you follow for recruiting? And he was like, Jeff Ketchum, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I'm Jeff Ketchum. And he fanboyed out a little bit. And then that became the great Sean Adams, Jeff Ketchum love affair, Section 8 at DKR. Circa 2003, something like that. Anyway, guys, we've answered all the super chats. We're an hour deep in. I got a show at noon with Chad. Y'all have a fantastic, guys, go to Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com. Use that promo code OrangeBloods. Sleeplessness, anxiety, pain, just a little bit of everything they've got. They can make a little bit of everything you need fixed a little bit better. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't swear by it if I didn't swear by it. The products are great. The people are better. The prices are fantastic. The shipping, the delivery, everything they do is just first class. Go check it out. Give them a spin. If I'm wrong, you can call me out on the air, but I'm not even tripping about that. I'm not worried at all. Check out Rogue Shop, the sponsor of the Overreaction Monday show. For myself, for Anwar Richardson, we're going to go enjoy the rest of our day and look and see if, I don't know, something happens with offensive linemen in the next 15 minutes. Probably not, but eventually